The highway was moving at nearly 70 miles an hour when Sophia Bennett heard the sound. Crack! Her steering wheel suddenly jerked violently to the left. What the? Sophia tightened both hands around the wheel as her black luxury SUV began drifting across the lane. She pressed the brake. Nothing happened. Her heart slammed against her chest. Come on, come on. The SUV refused to slow down. Ahead of her, traffic suddenly erupted into chaos. A delivery truck swerved across 2 lanes, its trailer swinging dangerously from side to side. Cars slammed on their brakes. Horns screamed. Sophia tried to steer toward the shoulder. Then the truck hit another vehicle. The impact sent debris flying across the highway. Sophia's SUV struck the debris, spun sideways, smashed through the guardrail, and plunged down the embankment. Her scream lasted only a second. Then everything went black. Less than a minute later, Marcus Reed was driving his battered service truck along the same highway when he saw smoke rising beyond the guardrail. He immediately pulled over. Marcus was a 36-year-old roadside mechanic who had spent most of his adult life fixing other people's cars. His clothes were usually stained with grease, his hands permanently marked by years of mechanical work, and his old pickup truck looked like it had survived almost as many accidents as the vehicles he repaired. But Marcus had one quality that made people trust him. When something went wrong, he didn't panic. He grabbed the emergency kit from behind his seat and ran toward the wreck. Several motorists had stopped. Nobody moved down the embankment. There's someone inside, a man shouted. Marcus looked at the twisted SUV. Smoke was coming from beneath the hood. Call 911, he yelled. Tell them the vehicle is leaking fuel. He didn't wait for an answer. Marcus climbed down the steep embankment carefully, using the nearby bushes for balance. When he reached the SUV, he looked through the shattered driver's window. A woman was trapped inside. She was unconscious. Blood trickled from a cut near her forehead. Marcus immediately checked whether she was breathing. She was. Ma'am, can you hear me? No response. He looked beneath the vehicle. Fuel was leaking. The engine compartment was badly damaged, and smoke was beginning to thicken. Marcus knew he couldn't simply drag her out. The driver's door was crushed inward, and pulling her through the broken window could worsen a spinal injury. He took a breath. Okay, he whispered. Think. He pulled a fire extinguisher from his truck and returned to the SUV. First, he disconnected the battery. Then he positioned himself carefully and examined the damaged door. His years as a mechanic suddenly mattered more than ever. He wedged a heavy tool into the frame and began forcing the twisted metal away from Sophia. Come on. The metal groaned. Marcus worked faster. Inside the vehicle, Sophia's eyes suddenly opened. Everything was blurry. She could hear someone shouting. Stay with me. She tried to move. Pain shot through her body. Don't move, the man's voice said firmly. You're trapped, but I'm getting you out. Who are you? Marcus. Sophia struggled to focus on his face. He was covered in grease and dust. His shirt was worn, and his forehead was damp with sweat. She had no idea who he was. She only knew that a stranger was risking his life for hers. Am I going to die? She whispered. Marcus stopped for half a second. No. His voice was calm. You're going to get out of here. A faint crackling sound came from beneath the SUV. Marcus looked down. The leaking fuel had reached something hot. Flames appeared underneath the vehicle. Okay, Marcus said, suddenly more urgently. We're leaving now. He pulled the damaged door farther open. The opening was barely large enough. Can you move your right arm? Sophia tried. She winced. Yes. Good, put it around my shoulder. Marcus reached inside. On 3. He counted. 1, 2, 3. Sophia cried out as Marcus carefully pulled her free. They had barely moved away from the SUV when flames spread beneath it. Marcus carried Sophia several yards up the embankment. Then, boom, the SUV erupted into flames. Sophia stared at the burning wreck in disbelief. Marcus lowered her carefully onto the grass. "Don't try to stand." Sirens could finally be heard in the distance. Sophia looked at the man kneeling beside her. "Why did you come back?" Marcus frowned. "Back? You could have stayed up there." Marcus glanced toward the burning vehicle. "So could everyone else." Sophia stared at him. She was wealthy enough to have security personnel, executives, drivers, and people ready to solve almost every problem she encountered. Yet the person who had risked his life for her was a complete stranger. Paramedics rushed down the embankment. Marcus stepped aside and gave them room. One of the paramedics asked him what happened. Marcus explained everything clearly. He gave them the location, described Sophia's condition, and showed them the emergency equipment he had used. Then a police officer approached. "Sir, we'll need your statement." Marcus nodded. "I'll stay." Sophia watched him from the stretcher. She was frightened, confused, and still struggling to understand how close she had come to death. But before the paramedics carried her away, she reached toward Marcus. "Wait." He looked at her. "What's your name?" "Marcus Reed." Sophia repeated it quietly. "Marcus Reed." She didn't know it yet, but that name was about to become one of the most important names in her life. And the man standing beside that burning wreckage had no idea that the unconscious woman he had just pulled from a deadly crash was Sophia Bennett, the CEO of one of Atlanta's fastest-growing technology companies. Nor did either of them know that their encounter on that lonely stretch of highway was only the beginning. Because before Sophia ever met Marcus, fate had already been quietly bringing their lives together. And before this story ended, the woman who thought she had everything would discover that the one thing she truly needed could never be bought with money. Love. Sophia woke to the steady beeping of a heart monitor. For several seconds, she didn't know where she was. Then the memories came rushing back. The highway. The loss of control. The crash. The flames. And the man who had pulled her from the wreck. Sophia slowly turned her head toward the hospital window. Morning light streamed through the blinds. A nurse entered carrying a tray. "Good morning, Ms. Bennett." Sophia swallowed. "How long have I been here?" "Since yesterday afternoon. You were fortunate." Sophia closed her eyes briefly. Fortunate. That word didn't seem big enough. She remembered the flames. "Where's the man who rescued me?" The nurse smiled. "You mean Mr. Reed?" Sophia immediately opened her eyes. "You know him." He stayed until the police finished taking his statement. He also gave them footage from his truck's dash camera. Then he left. "Did he leave a phone number?" The nurse checked the chart. "There's a report with his information. The police have it." Sophia stared at the ceiling. She needed to find him. Not because she wanted to reward him. She simply needed to see him again. 2 days later, after doctors confirmed that her injuries were not life-threatening, Sophia's assistant, Rachel, arrived at the hospital with a tablet and several documents. Sophia barely looked at them. "Forget the board meeting." Rachel blinked. "You want to cancel the meeting?" "I want you to find Marcus Reed." Rachel looked confused. "The mechanic. The man who saved my life. I'll find him." By that evening, Rachel had located him. Marcus owned a small roadside repair garage about 30 miles from the city. Sophia was surprised. She had expected something more substantial after hearing how confidently he had handled the crash. The next morning, Marcus walked into her hospital room carrying a small paper bag. Sophia immediately recognized him. He looked almost exactly as she remembered. Plain work clothes, worn boots, and hands that still carried traces of grease despite being freshly washed. "Ms. Bennett." Sophia smiled. "Marcus." He placed the bag on the table. "I brought you something." She looked inside. A bottle of water and a sandwich. Sophia almost laughed. "You brought me a sandwich. You've been in the hospital for 3 days. I figured you were tired of hospital food." For the first time since the accident, Sophia genuinely smiled. "Thank you." Marcus pulled a chair closer. "How are you feeling?" "Sore, embarrassed, angry." "Angry?" Sophia sighed. "My SUV was practically brand new." Marcus chuckled. "Well, I don't think the SUV is going to complain about the repairs." Sophia laughed. The conversation felt strangely easy. Then she remembered why she had asked him to come. "I owe you." Marcus shook his head. "No, you don't. I mean it, you saved my life. I did what anyone should have done." Sophia stared at him. "Most people didn't." Marcus didn't respond. Instead, he looked toward the window. Sophia noticed something unusual about him. He wasn't fishing for compliments. He wasn't asking about her company. He wasn't even curious about how much money she had. That was rare. Very rare. Sophia reached for her purse. "I'd like to give you something." Marcus immediately shook his head. "No. You haven't even heard the amount." "I don't need to." Sophia paused. "Marcus, I can afford to compensate you." "I know." His answer surprised her. "Then why won't you accept it?" "Because I didn't save you for money." Sophia studied him carefully. "Then what do you want?" Marcus smiled. "Nothing, just get better." He stood. Sophia watched him walk toward the door. "Marcus." He turned. "Thank you." This time, his expression softened. "You're welcome." After he left, Sophia remained silent. She had spent years surrounded by people who wanted something from her. Investors wanted her company. Executives wanted her approval. Former friends wanted access to her wealth. Even Daniel, the man she had once planned to marry, had eventually tried to use their relationship to gain influence over her business. But Marcus Reed wanted nothing. And somehow, that made her more curious about him than anything else could have. A week later, Sophia returned to work. Her company was preparing for an important expansion, but the accident had changed her perspective. She no longer rushed through every moment. Still, one question kept returning to her mind. Who exactly was Marcus Reed? She eventually learned that he had been working as a mechanic for more than 15 years. But there was something else. Before his father's death, Marcus had dreamed of becoming an automotive engineer. He had even started developing ideas for vehicle safety technology. Then life had intervened. His father died unexpectedly, leaving Marcus responsible for his younger sister. Marcus abandoned his plans and went to work. Sophia stared at the information on her screen. The roadside mechanic who had saved her wasn't simply a man with good instincts. He was a talented engineer who had sacrificed his own future for his family. For reasons she couldn't explain, Sophia found herself smiling. She picked up her phone. Then she hesitated. She wasn't sure whether she should call him. Finally, she typed a message. "Marcus, I think I owe you another sandwich." Seconds later, her phone buzzed. "Only if you promise not to drive there yourself." Sophia laughed. For the first time in a very long time, she wasn't thinking about her company, her board, or her former fiancé. She was thinking about a mechanic. And neither of them realized that their innocent conversation was about to become the beginning of something neither had expected. Sophia told herself that meeting Marcus again was simply a way of thanking him properly. At least, that was what she believed when she drove to his garage the following Saturday. She didn't arrive in a chauffeur-driven car. She didn't bring her assistant. She didn't even tell anyone at the company where she was going. For once, Sophia wanted to do something without an entourage. Marcus was underneath an old pickup truck when she arrived. He slid out on a mechanic's creeper and stared at her. "You actually came." Sophia smiled. "I promised you a sandwich." Marcus wiped his hands with a rag. "You could have sent it." "I could have." "Then why didn't you?" Sophia paused. "Because I wanted to see if you were going to complain about it." Marcus laughed. She handed him a paper bag. "Turkey sandwich, no onions." He looked inside. "You remembered. You mentioned it at the hospital." Marcus shook his head. "Most people don't remember little things." Sophia shrugged. "I do." She looked around the garage. It was small but organized. Tools were neatly arranged along the walls. Several vehicles were being repaired, and Marcus's younger sister, Maya, was working at the front desk. Maya immediately recognized Sophia. "You're the woman from the accident." Sophia smiled. "That's me." Maya looked at Marcus. "You never told me she was the CEO." Marcus frowned. "Because it wasn't important." Sophia raised an eyebrow. "Apparently, my job is classified information." Maya laughed. Marcus looked embarrassed. Sophia found it strangely charming. Over the next few weeks, their friendship deepened. Sophia began stopping by the garage occasionally. Sometimes she brought food. Sometimes Marcus helped her understand the strange noises her replacement vehicle made. Other times, they simply talked. Their conversations gradually moved beyond the accident. Sophia learned about Marcus's father, Samuel. Samuel had been an automotive engineer who believed safer vehicles could save thousands of lives. Marcus still had several of his father's old notebooks stored in a cabinet at home. One afternoon, Marcus showed Sophia some of them. Sophia carefully examined the handwritten designs. "Your father was brilliant." Marcus nodded. "He was. Why didn't you continue his work?" Marcus looked down. "When he died, Maya was 17. I was 21. Someone had to keep the family together." Sophia understood. "You gave up your dream." "I chose my family." There was no bitterness in his voice. That answer stayed with Sophia. She had spent her entire adult life building a company because she believed success required sacrifice. But Marcus had sacrificed something different. He had sacrificed his own dream for someone he loved. Sophia began seeing him differently. Not as the mechanic who saved her, but as a man with character. Marcus, meanwhile, was beginning to notice changes in Sophia. She laughed more. She stopped checking her phone every 30 seconds. She occasionally talked about things that had nothing to do with business. But Marcus also knew who she was. Sophia Bennett wasn't an ordinary woman. She was a CEO with a massive company, expensive homes, and a life filled with people who lived very differently from him. He tried to keep their relationship within the boundaries of friendship. Then Daniel Carter returned. Daniel was Sophia's former fiancé. He had once been the man she intended to marry. Their relationship had ended when Sophia discovered that Daniel had secretly been trying to acquire influence over her company through a network of investors. Sophia had walked away from him. Daniel hadn't accepted it. He appeared at her office one afternoon without an appointment. "We need to talk." Sophia didn't look up from her laptop. "We've already talked." "You've changed." "Yes." Daniel's eyes narrowed. "Is there someone else?" Sophia finally looked at him. "That's none of your business." Daniel noticed the slight smile on her face. He immediately understood. "Who is he?" Sophia said nothing. Daniel laughed bitterly. "The mechanic." Her expression hardened. "His name is Marcus." "So it is true." There's nothing for you to discuss. Daniel leaned against the desk. You don't know anything about that man. I know enough. You've known him for weeks. Long enough to know he has more integrity than some people I've known for years. Daniel's face tightened. He walked toward the door. You're making a mistake. Sophia looked at him. No, the mistake was trusting you. Daniel left. But he wasn't finished. Over the next few days, subtle problems began appearing around Sophia's company. Confidential information somehow reached competitors. A major investor suddenly demanded an emergency meeting. Then Sophia received an anonymous email. You don't know the man you're trusting. Attached were photographs. Marcus entering Sophia's company headquarters. Marcus speaking with one of her employees. Marcus examining company vehicles. The images looked suspicious. Sophia immediately called Marcus. Did you come to my office? Yes. Why? The fleet department asked me to inspect several vehicles after your accident. Your company wanted to make sure there wasn't a wider mechanical problem. Sophia remembered the request. She had simply forgotten about it. Why didn't you tell me? You were busy. Sophia looked at the photographs again. Marcus, did you access anything confidential? His voice became serious. No. Are you sure? Absolutely. There was silence. Then Marcus asked quietly, Do you believe I did? Sophia didn't answer quickly enough. Marcus understood. That's all I needed to know. The call ended. Sophia stared at her phone. She immediately regretted the hesitation. But before she could call him back, her chief security officer entered her office. Ms. Bennett, we have another problem. Sophia looked up. What now? We've discovered someone may have tampered with your vehicle before the crash. Her heart stopped. The SUV. He nodded. And the police believe it may not have been an accident. Sophia's mind immediately went to Daniel. But then another thought struck her. Marcus had worked on a vehicle belonging to one of her company's subcontractors shortly before the crash. Suddenly, the photographs looked much more sinister. Someone wasn't simply trying to frighten her. Someone wanted her to distrust the one man who had saved her life. And Sophia was about to discover that the highway crash that brought Marcus into her life had never been as random as she thought. Sophia barely slept that night. The possibility that her highway crash had been deliberate changed everything. She replayed every detail in her mind, the strange loss of control, the truck ahead of her, the impact, and Marcus appearing at the exact moment she needed help. Then she remembered the photographs Daniel had sent. Someone wanted her to suspect Marcus. But why? The next morning, Sophia called Detective Harris, the officer assigned to investigate the accident. Detective, I need to ask you something. Of course. Did you find evidence that my vehicle was deliberately tampered with? There was a pause. We're still examining the evidence, but yes, we found something unusual. What? A component connected to the vehicle's braking system appears to have been interfered with before the crash. Sophia's stomach tightened. Could it have failed naturally? That's what we're determining, but the damage pattern doesn't look entirely consistent with normal wear. Sophia leaned back. Do you know who did it? Not yet. After the call, Sophia summoned her head of security. Find out who had access to my vehicle during the 48 hours before the crash. Within hours, they had a list. Her driver, the dealership, a company maintenance contractor, several employees, and Marcus. Sophia stared at Marcus's name. Her security chief noticed her expression. Ms. Bennett, we shouldn't assume he's involved. His presence on the list only means he worked on one of the company vehicles. I know. But doubt had already begun creeping into her mind. Not because she believed Marcus was guilty. because someone was clearly trying to make him look guilty. Sophia called him. He answered after several rings. "Hello. Marcus, we need to talk." There was a pause. "About what?" "The investigation." His voice became guarded. "What about it?" "Security found that you worked on one of our contractor vehicles shortly before my accident." "I told you that." "I know." "Then why are you calling?" Sophia struggled to find the right words. "Because I need to know if you noticed anything unusual." Marcus was silent for several seconds. "Nothing unusual." "Are you sure?" "Yes." Sophia closed her eyes. She heard disappointment in his voice. "Marcus, you don't trust me." "That's not what I said." "You don't have to say it." He ended the call. Sophia immediately regretted it. But Marcus wasn't angry because she had asked questions. He was hurt because she had hesitated to believe him. For the next several days, they didn't speak. Sophia threw herself into the investigation. Meanwhile, Marcus returned to his normal routine. He repaired cars, paid his employees, helped Maya with the garage, and tried not to think about Sophia. But one evening, while reviewing the photographs of the damaged SUV, Detective Harris noticed something. The component that had been tampered with wasn't something an ordinary person would easily access. Whoever had done it knew enough about the vehicle to interfere with it, without immediately raising suspicion. That narrowed the possibilities. The police began examining Sophia's company's maintenance records. They discovered something disturbing. A maintenance contractor had accessed Sophia's vehicle shortly before the accident. But the contractor's authorization had come from someone inside Sophia's company. Sophia immediately demanded an internal audit. The results were shocking. Someone had been leaking confidential company information for months. Financial forecasts, investor communications, upcoming contracts. Everything was being passed to an outside party. Sophia recognized one name repeatedly appearing in the financial records. Daniel Carter. She felt sick. Daniel wasn't merely trying to win her back. He was trying to weaken her company. But why? Her chief financial officer explained the strategy. If the company's valuation drops significantly, an investor group could acquire enough shares to gain control. Sophia stared at the documents. And Daniel is connected to that group. Indirectly. She understood. Daniel didn't necessarily need to own the company. He only needed to help someone else gain control. But there was still one unanswered question. Why had Marcus been dragged into it? Sophia returned to the photographs. Then she noticed something. One picture showed Marcus standing outside her headquarters. But the timestamp was wrong. It had been taken on a day when Marcus was supposed to be at his garage. Sophia contacted her security team. Verify the original metadata. Minutes later, they confirmed that the photograph had been altered. The image had been edited to make Marcus appear suspicious. Sophia's heart sank. Someone had deliberately fabricated evidence against him. She immediately drove to Marcus's garage. When she arrived, he was closing for the evening. He looked surprised to see her. "Sophia." She stepped out of her car. "I owe you an apology." Marcus didn't respond. "I should have trusted you." He looked away. "I understand why you asked questions." "No." Sophia shook her head. "I don't think you do. You saved my life. And when someone tried to make you look guilty, I let doubt get between us." Marcus finally looked at her. "What did you find?" Sophia explained everything. The tampered photograph, the maintenance records, the information leak, and Daniel's connection to the investor group. Marcus listened carefully. When she finished, he asked, "Do you think Daniel caused the crash?" "I don't know yet." Marcus nodded. Then find out. Sophia smiled faintly. That's exactly what I'm going to do. Marcus walked toward his garage. Then he stopped. Sophia. She turned. I never wanted your money. I know. I never wanted your company. I know. And I definitely never wanted to be involved in your business. Sophia smiled. Unfortunately, my business seems determined to involve you. For the first time in days, Marcus smiled too. But neither of them knew that the investigation was about to uncover something far more dangerous. The police traced the maintenance authorization to a senior executive inside Sophia's company. And when Detective Harris discovered who had approved it, Sophia's entire world shifted. Because the person behind the scheme wasn't working somewhere outside her company. They were sitting inside the company she had built. And they had been waiting for the perfect opportunity to destroy her. The name on Detective Harris's report left Sophia speechless. Richard Lawson, Sophia's chief operating officer. He had been with Bennett Technologies for almost 8 years. Richard had been there when the company had only 20 employees. He had helped Sophia negotiate major contracts, recruit senior executives, and expand into new markets. She had trusted him completely. Now the police had evidence connecting him to the maintenance authorization used before her accident. Sophia refused to believe it. There has to be another explanation. Detective Harris placed a folder on her desk. There may be. That's why we're still investigating. Sophia opened it. Inside were copies of emails, payment records, and communication logs. Richard had been communicating with an investment group connected to Daniel. Sophia's hands tightened around the documents. How long? We're still determining that. She looked up. And the crash. We have evidence suggesting someone deliberately tampered with your vehicle. We can't yet prove Richard personally did it. Sophia nodded. Then don't arrest anyone until you can. Detective Harris studied her. You want to be careful. I want the truth. Meanwhile, Marcus was struggling with his own decision. He had fallen in love with Sophia. He could no longer deny it. But he wasn't sure he belonged in her world. One evening, Maya found him sitting alone in the garage after everyone had gone home. You look miserable. Marcus smiled weakly. I'm thinking. That's usually dangerous. He laughed. Maya sat beside him. Is this about Sophia? Marcus didn't answer. Maya already knew. You love her. Marcus sighed. I do. Then what's the problem? Our lives are completely different. Maya shook her head. That didn't stop her from coming here. Marcus looked toward the closed garage door. I don't want her to think I'm chasing her money. Then don't. I don't. Good, then stop worrying about what other people think. Marcus smiled. Maya stood. You're always telling everyone else to be brave. Maybe try it yourself. The following morning, Sophia arrived at the garage. Marcus was surprised. I thought you had a board meeting. I did. And I left. Marcus frowned. Why? Because I realized something. Sophia stepped closer. I've spent years allowing my company to determine how I live. Every decision has been about protecting the business. She paused. After the crash, I realized I could have died without ever asking myself whether I was actually happy. Marcus said nothing. Sophia looked directly into his eyes. I'm happy when I'm with you. Marcus swallowed. Sophia, I don't need you to become someone else. She reached for his hand. And I don't need you to fit into my world. Marcus looked down at their hands. Then he smiled. You're making this very difficult. Good. They both laughed. For the first time, neither tried to hide what was happening between them. But their happiness was short-lived. That afternoon, Sophia received a call from Detective Harris. "We found the person who tampered with the vehicle." Her heart raced. "Who?" "We're not ready to release the name yet." "Detective." "But we know something important." "What?" "The person wasn't acting alone." Sophia's expression changed. "What does that mean?" "There's evidence of a coordinated plan involving someone inside your company and someone outside it." Sophia immediately thought of Daniel. Richard and Daniel. We're still connecting the evidence. Then the detective said something that made Sophia's blood run cold. "There's another person you need to know about." "Who?" "The maintenance contractor." Sophia remembered Marcus. The contractor had employed several mechanics, including one man Marcus had worked alongside on a previous job. Sophia's heart sank. "Are you saying Marcus could be involved?" "No." Detective Harris's voice was firm. "Actually, the evidence we've found so far makes him look more like a witness than a suspect." Sophia breathed again. "What did he say?" "We don't know yet." After the call ended, Sophia immediately contacted Marcus. But he didn't answer. She called again. Still nothing. Then she received a message from an unknown number. "Stop investigating the crash." Sophia stared at the screen. Another message arrived. "Or the mechanic won't be the only person who gets hurt." Her heart pounded. Someone knew she was investigating. And they knew Marcus was important to her. Sophia immediately called Detective Harris. Within minutes, police officers were sent to Marcus's garage. But when Sophia arrived, the garage was already empty. The front door was unlocked. Several tools had been knocked onto the floor. A chair was overturned. And Marcus's phone was lying beside the workbench. Sophia's breathing became shallow. "Where is he?" No one answered. Then Detective Harris noticed something on the concrete floor. A small trail of fresh oil led toward the back entrance. They followed it outside. There, they found Marcus's truck. The driver's door was open. The engine was still running. But Marcus was gone. Sophia's face went pale. The man who had once risked his life to save her had disappeared. And this time, she was terrified that she might be too late to save him. But what Sophia didn't know was that Marcus had not been taken by Daniel or Richard. He had followed someone, and the person he was following had unknowingly led him directly to the final piece of evidence that could expose the entire conspiracy. Within hours, the truth would finally come to light. But first, Marcus would have to survive long enough to reveal it. Marcus had not been kidnapped. He had followed the maintenance contractor after recognizing his truck near the garage. The man had noticed Marcus and driven away. Marcus followed him only long enough to record the vehicle's license plate and location. But when he stopped at an abandoned warehouse, Marcus called Detective Harris before approaching. Unfortunately, the contractor spotted him. "Why are you following me?" the man demanded. Marcus kept his distance. "I want to know why someone tried to make me look guilty." The man's confidence disappeared. Before he could answer, police vehicles arrived. Detective Harris had tracked Marcus's phone after Sophia reported him missing. The contractor was arrested. During questioning, he finally confessed. Richard had paid him to tamper with Sophia's vehicle. Daniel had supplied the money and instructions. Their plan had been simple: make Sophia's accident appear accidental, scare her into stepping away from her company, and then manipulate investors into taking control. But they had made one mistake. They had underestimated Marcus. The contractor also revealed that Richard had ordered someone to plant evidence, suggesting Marcus was involved. Sophia listened to the confession in silence. Then she asked the detective one question. "Is Marcus safe?" "He is." Sophia closed her eyes with relief. When Marcus finally arrived at the police station, Sophia ran toward him. She stopped only inches away. For a moment, neither spoke. Then she hugged him tightly. Marcus wrapped his arms around her. I'm okay. I thought I'd lost you. You didn't. Sophia pulled back and looked into his eyes. I was terrified. Marcus smiled gently. I've been terrified too. Of what? Of falling in love with you. Sophia's eyes filled with tears. You should have told me. I was trying to be sensible. She laughed through her tears. Marcus, when has love ever been sensible? He smiled. Apparently, not very often. The investigation eventually led to Richard and Daniel being arrested and charged for their roles in the scheme. Sophia's company survived. But the experience changed her. She no longer measured her life only by quarterly profits, contracts, and business victories. She began making time for the people she loved. Marcus also changed. With Sophia's encouragement, he returned to the dream he had abandoned years earlier. He reopened his father's engineering notebooks. Sophia offered financial support, but Marcus refused to accept it as a gift. Instead, they created a legitimate partnership. Marcus became the lead engineer of a new vehicle safety division, while Sophia provided the business resources needed to bring his father's ideas into production. Months later, their first prototype was ready. Sophia stood beside Marcus as they unveiled it to their team. The applause filled the workshop. Marcus looked at the vehicle, then at Sophia. I never thought I'd finish this. Sophia smiled. You did. We did. She shook her head. No, you did the work, I just believed you could. Marcus took her hand. The same woman he had pulled from a burning vehicle now stood beside him, not as a wealthy CEO and not as the helpless victim of a highway crash, but as the woman he loved. Later that evening, they returned to the stretch of highway where everything had begun. They stood beside the roadside in silence. Sophia looked toward the embankment. Do you ever think about that day? Sometimes. What were you thinking when you saw my car? Marcus smiled. That someone needed help. Sophia looked at him. And now? Marcus turned toward her. Now I think that was the day my life changed. Sophia slipped her hand into his. I thought surviving that crash was the miracle. Marcus waited. She smiled. But meeting you was the real miracle. He leaned closer. I thought I was saving a stranger. And I thought I was meeting the man who saved my life. She rested her head against his shoulder. I didn't know I'd meet the man I wanted to spend the rest of it with. Marcus kissed her forehead. Their love story had begun with twisted metal, broken glass, fear, and fire. But it had survived suspicion, betrayal, danger, and two completely different worlds. And in the end, neither Sophia nor Marcus got the life they had originally planned. They got something better. A life they chose together. Because sometimes the person who enters your life during your darkest moment isn't there simply to rescue you. Sometimes they become the reason you finally discover what it means to truly live. And sometimes, the stranger who saves your life becomes the love of your life.